Can't we pay back the US national debt? $31 trillion divided by 310 million citizens is about $100,000 per person. Obviously, many of us do not have that kind of money. But then again, a lot of people have more. Couldn't everyone just chip in and pay it off, and then we would have no more national debt? Like, let's say, the poor people each sent in $10 and the really rich people each sent in $10 million. We could have this debt paid back in a week. Sure. All we have to do is keep cutting taxes. In real life. Bill Clinton was the last president to actually run a budget surplus and paying off the debt. I remember reading articles in major magazines about the economic impact of totally paying off the nation's debt. Of course, then Bush 2 got into office and immediately spent the surplus, then pushed through massive tax cuts while starting 2 wars on the other side of the world for several generations. Every Dem president has left office with lower deficits than when they started, while every Repub press has increased deficits. Fat Donnie doubled it. Why should I have to pay debt the government incurred to provide a profit center for the military-industrial complex to fight wars I don't even agree with? Fuck all of that. Even if you manage to do, that will be the same problem again in a month. Trust me. Let's start with a wealth tax and taxing all religious institutions. As it stands now, it's mathematically impossible to pay back the debt. In our system, dollars are loaned into existence by banks. This means that the moment a dollar is created, it is owed to someone with interest. But where does that interest come from? Other dollars which were also loaned into existence with interest. So there are literally not enough to go around because each dollar represents a debt beyond its value. Does it sound crazy? Yes, it's insane. But it didn't used to be this way. Dollars used to be physical gold and silver. But now, everything is fiat. The correlation to base metal was broken decades ago. Lol, why would you want to do that? Collapse the entire economy over something that nobody knows is even that bad anyway? Plenty of countries have much larger debt to GDP ratios than the US. We'll just print some money to pay it back with. According to your logic, the poor people are paying for the middle and upper class part of the debt. It would be considerably less than $100,000 for the poor. People and corporations are issued numbers to keep track of taxes. I'm sure most people would agree that corporations should be responsible for national debt too. After including corporations and using a sliding scale, I'm sure the national debt isn't even a quarter of what you started for the poor and lower middle class. It might help if Microsoft, Amazon and other giant companies would pay their EFTN taxes. Beyond the laws, I think companies have a moral obligation to support the country that got them to where they are. Instead, they find ways not to pay. Why? Debt shouldn't be a dirty word. It's used to pay for large-scale projects that help invest in our country. Don't bother. The national debt isn't a problem. I don't believe that we owe it since we didn't agree to most of the spending, and we've been paying taxes all along, with only a portion going to our individual share of services and benefits, and the rest being defrauded away. The debt is in no way meant to be paid off. Pay back to. The US government spends money like a drunken sailor on shore leave. It will never be paid off. If by some miracle it were put to zero, it would be right back to where it is within a month. The only reason it's not higher is all the credit is maxed out. Debt is a tool that people use. Can't we just stop using shovels? You don't pay back federal debt. Learn MMT. Stop letting dumb old-fashioned Red Scare Republican bullcrap from Art Laffer's Curve and Grover Nordquist's deadly bathtub make its resurgence in 2023. All debt should have a corresponding asset. The best idea is to make debt illegal through a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution. That way sleazy politicians could never bankrupt our nation again. Bro, don't you know that's how it's gonna happen? People are going to inherit the houses all their boomer parents have, and we will have to sell them to pay student debt. Every Fortune 500 company carries a large amount of debt. Typically the bigger the company, the more debt they have. They never intend to reach a debt balance of zero because their debt is key to their growth. If you can borrow $1 and turn it into $2 at a faster rate than the interest you owe, then you should borrow as much money as possible. Countries work the same way. GDP, revenue, and taxes, profits. If we can invest borrowed money to increase a GDP, then we should keep doing it forever. Mao. I'd rather keep my $100,000 and retire in South America. Do you seriously believe that rich people should contribute to society? Reported for trolling international terrorism. Ignoramus stuff. Andrew Jackson did, and it plunged us into arguably worst depression in history. You need to get a clue about what the debt is. Or, let's say, the poor people each sent in $10 and the really rich people each sent in $10 million. What you are saying is essentially raise the taxes or introduce one-time tax to pay the debt. And tax the wealthy disproportionately. Not gonna happen. If we wanted to, Clinton had us on a path to pay it off. Then an election happened and we started a war, cut taxes on the wealthy, etc. My grandkids are 17, 15, 10 and 8. I better get their lazy asses working now. Gotta fix this problem now. Trying to get the wealthy to pay taxes is hard enough. There's no way you're going to get those people to put their hands in the pockets. You could just print the money and pay it off without asking anyone to pay anything. But then a loaf of bread would cost about $25. Why would I want to chip in more when all I see are the wealthy avoiding taxes and getting more tax reductions? The actual spending benefits the wealthy the most, so I don't think this is the poor and middle classes' problem to solve when their effective tax rate is often higher than the wealthy. I'll ask Bezos to pay for my share. Not unless we tax the rich. Dude, we have already paid for it and then some. Look at your pay stub. That debt is your money. Paying it down, destroying the money leads to recession. The trick is to keep the money moving. Fractional reserve banking. So I'm told, no debt, no money. Usually people don't have an understanding of the national debt. The US deficit means someone else's surplus. A majority of that surplus is within US citizens' hands. You can't boil things down to as simple as paying it off. I have no interest in paying off my bond when I'm earning a return on it. 100K per person, that's easy. Where do I send my share? You should probably post this in Eli 5. The government's greed is insatiable. It will never pay down the debt, it will continue until collapse. Also, I'd refrain from using the word we. You and I are not the government. It's going to be 34 trillion in a week, not 31. If we can't even get rich folks to pay their fair share of taxes, I doubt they'll chip in for national debt. It is well enough that people of the nation do not understand our banking and monetary system, for if they did, I believe there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning. Henry Ford. Seeing how only 7 trillion of US gov debt is not owned by Americans, yes we can. It is the government mostly paying Americans who fall under its legislative purview, so it is pretty straightforward in terms of implementability. Whether we should is an entirely different question, with a short answer of no. Increase taxes and reduce the deficit to around 3 of GDP, that is 1 to 2 below nominal growth rate, to allow for spending increases during recessions? Probably should. Pay off the entire amount in immediate order? Ridiculous, and horribly counterproductive. How about stop wasteful pork belly spending? Our national debt is not like a car loan or a credit card debt. We must increase income, but raising taxes is a divisive issue. Cutting spending is also a must, but where do you cut it from? Depends on your politics. Since the entire issue is polarizing, nothing actually gets done. Very time each side gets the ball, they just punt.